This morning, before I came here to speak with you, I sat in complete silence for 30 minutes. No phone, no distractions, just me and my breath. And in that silence, I heard something I hadn't heard in years. I heard the truth about who I really am beneath all the noise, beneath all the stories I tell myself, beneath all the fear and doubt that creeps in when I'm not paying attention. And what I realized in that moment is the same thing I want to share with you right now. The words you speak to yourself in the morning, in those first precious moments when you open your eyes, those words have the power to shape your entire existence, not just your day, your entire life. Think about it. What were the first words that came into your mind this morning? Were they words of possibility or words of dread? Did you wake up and think, here we go again, another day of struggle? Or did you wake up and recognize that you've been given another chance, another opportunity to become who you're truly meant to be? Because I'll tell you something that took me decades to understand. Transformation doesn't happen in some distant future when all the conditions are perfect. Transformation happens in the mornings. It happens in those first moments of consciousness when your mind is still soft, still malleable, before the hardened patterns of habit take over. There's an ancient teaching that says the morning is when the veil between who you are and who you could be is thinnest. The masters understood this. They knew that the mind in the morning is like clay. You can shape it, mold it, direct it. But once the day hardens it with stress and reaction and all the demands of the world, it becomes rigid. So they would rise before dawn and they would speak to themselves. They would remind themselves of what's true, of what matters, of who they really are beneath all the conditioning. Let me tell you a story. There was a young man who came to train at the monastery. He was brilliant, capable, strong. But every morning he would wake up defeated. Before his feet even touched the ground, he was already carrying the weight of inadequacy. I'm not good enough, he would think. I'll never master this. Everyone else is better than me. And this pattern, these morning thoughts, they weren't just thoughts. They were creating his reality. In training, he would hesitate. In meditation, he would doubt. In life, he would hold back. His morning mind was programming his entire existence. One day, his master gave him a simple instruction. For the next 40 days, before you do anything else, before you check if it's raining, before you think about your tasks, I want you to say 3 things out loud. First, I am awake. Second, I am capable of growth. Third, today, I choose my response to life. That's it. 3 sentences. 40 days. The young man thought it was too simple. How could 3 sentences change anything? But he committed. And you know what happened? Nothing. For the first week, nothing changed. He said the words, but they felt empty, mechanical. His old patterns were still there, waiting for him. But his master told him, continue. Don't judge. Just practice. So he did. By the second week, something subtle began to shift. The words started to feel less foreign. It was like his mind was beginning to recognize a new language. By the third week, he noticed that when challenges arose during the day, there was a slight pause, a tiny space where he could choose his response instead of just reacting. And by the end of 40 days, something profound had happened. His entire orientation to life had changed. Not because the words were magic, but because repetition creates pathways. What you repeat, you become. This is neuroscience now confirming what the ancient masters always knew. Your brain is neuroplastic. It's constantly rewiring itself based on what you feed it. Every thought you think, every word you speak, especially in that vulnerable morning state, is literally shaping the physical structure of your brain. You're not just thinking thoughts, you're building mental highways. And if you keep traveling down the highway of, I can't, I'm not enough, this is too hard, then that highway gets wider and smoother and easier to travel. But if you start building a new highway, one thought at a time, one morning at a time, eventually that becomes the path of least resistance. So let me ask you again, And I want you to really feel this question. What are you saying to yourself every morning? Because I've seen people with every advantage in the world, wealth, talent, opportunity, absolutely crumble because their morning mind was toxic. And I've seen people with nothing, people who started with every disadvantage you could imagine, rise to extraordinary heights because they understood this one principle. You must win the morning to win the day, and you must win the day to win your life. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking. This sounds like positive thinking. This sounds like just pretending that everything is okay when it's not. And I want to be very clear with you. This is not about denial. This is not about pretending your challenges don't exist. This is not about pasting a fake smile on your face and ignoring reality. This is about something much more powerful. This is about recognizing that you have a choice in how you meet reality. There's a difference between saying everything is perfect when it's not and saying I am capable of facing what is. One is delusion. The other is power. One denies reality. The other acknowledges reality and claims your agency within it. You see, life is going to present you with difficulties. That's guaranteed. You will face loss. You will face disappointment. You will face moments when everything seems to be falling apart. The question is not whether these things will happen. The question is, who will you be when they do? And that's determined by the foundation you build every single morning. Let me give you the exact words that changed my life. And I want you to really listen to these, not just with your ears, but with your whole being, because these words have been tested through centuries of practice, refined through generations of masters, and proven in the laboratory of real human transformation. The first thing you say the moment consciousness returns to you, before anything else, I am here. I am awake. I am alive. 3 simple statements. But feel what they do. I am here. This brings you into presence, into this moment, into now, not yesterday with its regrets, not tomorrow with its anxieties. Here. I am awake. This reminds you that you're not sleepwalking through life. You're conscious. You're aware. You have the capacity to witness your own mind. And I am alive. This is gratitude. This is recognition. Before anything else, before any complaint or concern, you acknowledge the fundamental gift breath is moving through you. Life is flowing through you. You've been given another day. Do you realize how many people went to sleep last night and didn't wake up this morning? Do you understand what an absolute miracle it is that your heart is beating, that your lungs are breathing? That consciousness is present in this body. We take it for granted. We wake up and immediately start thinking about what's wrong, what's missing, what needs to be fixed. But before all of that, there must be recognition. There must be acknowledgement. I am here. I am awake. I am alive. And then the second practice, I do not know what this day will bring, but I will meet it with an open heart and a clear mind. This is so important. So many people wake up with the day already written in their minds. They've already decided it's going to be difficult. It's going to be stressful. It's going to be just like yesterday. But the truth is, you don't know. You literally do not know what this day holds. Yes, you have responsibilities. Yes, you have challenges. But you also have possibilities you cannot see yet. You have potential encounters, potential insights, potential moments of beauty and connection that you cannot predict. When you say, I do not know what this day will bring, you're creating space. You're releasing the rigid expectations. You're opening yourself to what is, rather than forcing what you think should be. And then you declare your intention. I will meet it with an open heart and a clear mind, not a defended heart, not a cluttered mind, open, clear, ready, responsive. I watched a documentary once about a firefighter, a man who ran into burning buildings for 30 years. And the interviewer asked him, how do you do it? How do you face that fear every single day? And he said something I'll never forget. He said, I don't try to eliminate the fear. I acknowledge it. Every morning, before my shift, I sit in my car and I say out loud, Fear might be afraid today, and that's okay. Fear will not stop me from doing what needs to be done. And then I get out of the car and I go to work. That's the power of morning declaration. He wasn't lying to himself. He wasn't pretending to be fearless. He was establishing his relationship with fear. He was deciding in advance that fear could be present, but it wouldn't be in control. And that decision made every morning allowed him to save lives. It allowed him to run toward danger when every instinct screamed to run away. What if you approached your life like that? What if, instead of trying to feel perfectly confident before you take action, you simply established your relationship with discomfort every morning? I might feel uncertain today, and that's okay. Uncertainty will not stop me from moving forward. Can you feel how different that is? You're not waiting for certainty. You're not waiting to feel ready. You're declaring that you'll move anyway. The third morning practice, and this one is crucial. I am not my thoughts. I am the awareness that witnesses thoughts. Say this slowly. Let it sink in, because this is the key to freedom. Most people are completely identified with their thinking. A negative thought arises and they immediately believe they are that thought. I'm worthless appears in the mind and they think, I am worthless. But that's a confusion. You are not the thought. You are the one who is aware of the thought. Imagine you're sitting by a river, watching leaves float by. Some leaves are beautiful. Some are ugly. Some are interesting. Some are boring. But you're not the leaves. You're the one watching them pass. Your thoughts are exactly like this. They arise, they float through your awareness, they disappear. You don't have to grab onto them. You don't have to believe them. You don't have to act on them. You can simply observe them and let them pass. When you establish this every morning, I am not my thoughts. I am the awareness that witnesses thoughts. You're creating space between stimulus and response. You're giving yourself freedom. Because now, when the thought, I can't do this, arises, instead of immediately believing it and giving up, you can observe it. Oh, there's that can't thought again. How interesting. I've seen you before. You're not the truth. You're just a pattern. You're just mental weather. And it loses its power over you. There was a woman I knew, a successful entrepreneur, who struggled with panic attacks. They would come out of nowhere, overwhelming her, convincing her she was dying. She tried medication, therapy, everything. But what finally helped her was this simple morning practice. Every day before anything else, she would sit up in bed and say, I am not my anxiety. I am the space in which anxiety appears. Anxiety may visit today, but it is not who I am. And over time, the relationship changed. The anxiety would still arise sometimes, but it no longer controlled her. She could feel it in her body, notice the thoughts it produced, and still function. Still lead her company, still show up for her life, because she had established every single morning the truth of her identity. She was not the storm, she was the sky in which the storm appeared. This is what the morning practice gives you. It gives you a foundation that cannot be shaken, because no matter what happens during the day, you've already established who you are. You've already declared your stance. You've already chosen your relationship with whatever arises. Now, the fourth practice. And I want you to really pay attention to this one because it's about purpose. Today, I will act in alignment with who I want to become, not who I have been. This is the practice of consciously choosing growth over comfort. Because here's what happens to most people. They wake up and they automatically become yesterday's version of themselves. Same thoughts, same reactions, same patterns. They're living in the past without even realizing it. But when you say, today, I will act in alignment with who I want to become, you're making a distinction. You're acknowledging that there's a gap between who you currently are and who you're capable of being. And you're declaring your intention to close that gap one day at a time, one choice at a time. I remember working with a man who was trying to change his relationship with anger. For years, he'd been explosive, reactive, damaging his relationships with his outbursts. He desperately wanted to change, but every time someone triggered him, the pattern would take over. So we worked on this morning practice. Every day, he would say, "Today, I will act in alignment with who I want to become, a man who responds with patience instead of reacting with anger. When I feel anger rising, I will pause. I will breathe. I will choose my response." The first few times he was triggered, he still exploded. The pattern was strong, but something was different. After the explosion, he would remember his morning declaration. And there would be this moment of dissonance, this recognition. That wasn't who I said I would be today. And that dissonance created motivation. Not guilt, not shame, but motivation. Tomorrow morning, I'll practice this again. And tomorrow, I'll try to remember sooner. And gradually, the gap between reaction and remembering got shorter. He would explode, then remember 2 minutes later. Then 30 seconds later. Then he'd catch himself in the middle of the explosion and be able to stop. And finally, after months of this practice, he began catching the anger before it turned into an explosion. He would feel it rising, remember his morning declaration, and pause. Just for a moment. Just long enough to choose. That's transformation. Not perfection, not overnight change, but consistent practice guided by a clear morning intention. You become who you practice being. And the morning is when you decide who you're going to practice being today. The fifth practice is about contribution. Today, I will look for opportunities to serve, to help, to add value to the lives of others. This one is profound because it shifts your entire orientation from taking to giving. From what can I get to what can I offer? And this shift, it changes everything about how you move through the world. When you wake up thinking about what you need, what you lack, what you're worried about, you create a contracted energy. You become small, defensive, focused on survival. But when you wake up thinking about how you can serve, how you can contribute, how you can make someone's day a little better, you create an expansive energy. You become bigger than your problems. You tap into something that gives meaning beyond just your own immediate concerns. There's a story about a monk who worked in the monastery kitchen. Every morning, he would wake up at 4 a.m. to prepare food for his brothers. And someone asked him, "Doesn't this get tedious, doing the same thing every day, cooking meal after meal?" And he smiled and said, "Every morning I say to myself, through this food I nourish the bodies that carry these souls on their journey. Through this service, I practice love in its most practical form. How could that ever be tedious?" He had transformed a mundane task into a sacred practice through his morning intention. He didn't wait to feel inspired. He didn't wait for the task to be exciting. He decided every morning what meaning he would bring to it. What if you did this with your work? What if instead of waking up and thinking, "I have to go to work," you said, "Today, through my work, I will contribute something of value. I will solve problems. I will ease burdens. I will bring my full presence to what I do." Can you feel how different that is? Same job, same tasks, completely different energy. And here's what's beautiful about this. When you genuinely shift into service, when you're looking for ways to add value, opportunities appear that you would have completely missed otherwise. Because you're paying attention differently. You're seeing needs you wouldn't have noticed. You're spotting chances to help that would have passed you by. And as you serve, as you contribute, something happens to you. You begin to feel more connected, more purposeful, more alive. The sixth morning practice is about acceptance. I accept that I cannot control everything, but I can always control my response. This is where real power lies. Not in controlling the external world, which is impossible, but in mastering your internal response, which is always available to you. So many people waste their energy trying to control things they cannot control. They try to control what other people think of them, what other people do, whether circumstances work out the way they want. And this creates endless suffering because you're fighting reality. You're arguing with what is. and reality always wins that argument. But when you establish every morning that your power lies in your response, you stop wasting energy on the uncontrollable. You focus on what you can actually influence: your thoughts, your choices, your actions, your attitude. I once spoke with a man who had lost everything in a natural disaster: his home, his business, years of work, gone in a single night. And he told me something that still stays with me. He said, the morning after it happened, I woke up on a friend's couch, and for a moment I had forgotten. Then I remembered, and it hit me like a wave. Everything was gone. And in that moment, I had a choice. I could spend my energy being angry at the universe, being paralyzed by loss, drowning in self-pity, or I could accept what had happened and focus on what I could do next. He said, I sat up and I said out loud, this happened. I cannot change it. What I can do is take the next right step. And then I thought, what is the next right step? And the answer was get up, get dressed, make a plan to find temporary housing. So I did that. And then I asked again, what's the next right step? Contact insurance. So I did that. And step by step, day by day, I rebuilt. That's the power of morning acceptance combined with responsibility, the ability to respond. He didn't deny his pain. He didn't pretend everything was fine. But he also didn't give his power away to circumstances. He claimed his agency. He decided every morning, I will respond to what is, not to what I wish was. The seventh practice, and we're going deeper now, I release my attachment to specific outcomes and trust the unfolding of my path. This is a hard one for many people because we're taught to be so goal-oriented, so outcome-focused. We think we need to control exactly how everything unfolds. But this creates rigidity. It creates anxiety. It creates disappointment when things don't go according to plan. What if, instead, you could hold your intentions and goals lightly? What if you could work toward what you want while simultaneously being open to something even better that you haven't imagined yet? This isn't about not having goals. It's about not being imprisoned by your limited vision of how those goals must manifest. There's a martial artist I trained with, a master of his craft, who told me that when he was young, he had one goal: to win championships, to be recognized as the best. And he trained obsessively toward this goal. But he kept falling short. He would make it to finals and lose. He would come close and miss. And it was torture because he was so attached to this one specific outcome. Then his teacher gave him a practice. Every morning, say, I dedicate my practice to growth and mastery. I release my attachment to titles and recognition. I trust that if I focus on becoming excellent, the results will take care of themselves. At first, he resisted this. It felt like giving up on his dream. But his teacher insisted. So he began this morning practice. And something miraculous happened. As he released his desperate attachment to winning, his performance actually improved. He was less tense, more fluid, more present. He could take risks because he wasn't paralyzed by fear of failure. And within 2 years, he won the championship he'd been chasing. But more importantly, he had found something deeper than external validation. He had found genuine love for the practice itself. This is what morning release gives you. It gives you freedom to pursue excellence without being enslaved by specific outcomes. It allows you to show up fully without being crushed when things don't go according to plan. The eighth practice is about forgiveness. I release resentment and blame from yesterday. Today is new. This might be the most healing practice of all, because most people wake up carrying yesterday's hurts into today. Someone wronged them, life disappointed them, they made mistakes, and they carry all of this like a heavy backpack, getting heavier every day. But the morning gives you a chance to set it down, not to forget, not to condone harm, but to release the poison of resentment that hurts you more than it hurts anyone else. When you say, I release resentment and blame from yesterday, you're not making a statement about other people. You're making a statement about yourself. You're saying, I will not allow yesterday's pain to corrupt today's possibility. I worked with a woman once who had been deeply betrayed by her business partner. He had stolen money, destroyed trust, damaged her reputation, and she was consumed by anger. It was the first thing she thought about when she woke up. Her mind would immediately start replaying what happened, imagining confrontations, dwelling in victimhood, and it was destroying her. She couldn't focus on rebuilding. She couldn't move forward. She was stuck in the past. We worked on this morning forgiveness practice. Every day, I release resentment toward his name. What he did was wrong, but I will not let it poison my present. I reclaim my energy. I reclaim my focus. Today is new. The first dozen times she said it, she didn't believe it at all. It felt like a lie, but she kept practicing. And slowly, gradually, she started to notice moments during the day when she wasn't thinking about him. Small gaps in the obsession. Those gaps got longer. The grip loosened. And about 6 months into the practice, she realized something profound. She had gone an entire week without thinking about him. Not because she had forced it out of her mind, but because she had genuinely released it through consistent morning practice. She told me, I finally understood that forgiveness isn't about him. It's about me refusing to let him have one more day of my life. He took enough. He doesn't get to take my present and my future too. That's the power of morning forgiveness. It breaks the chains of the past. It gives you back your energy to invest in what's actually in front of you. The 9th practice is about presence. I will not live in the future or the past today. I will be here, in this moment, as fully as possible. Because here's the truth, this moment right now is the only moment you ever have. The past is memory. The future is imagination. The only place life is actually happening is here, now. But most people miss their lives because they're always somewhere else mentally. They're at breakfast thinking about the meeting at work. They're at work thinking about what they need to do at home. They're with their children thinking about their finances. They're never actually where they are. The morning practice of declaring presence is a commitment to being alive today, not just preparing for tomorrow or rehashing yesterday. And when you practice this, when you genuinely bring your full attention to each moment, everything becomes richer. Food tastes better. Conversations become more meaningful. Work becomes more engaging. Life becomes more vivid. There's a practice in some traditions where monks spend entire days in complete presence with simple tasks. Washing a bowl becomes a meditation. Walking from one building to another becomes a practice in awareness. Nothing is mundane when you're fully present to it. Everything becomes sacred when you give it your complete attention. Imagine bringing this into your daily life. You're drinking your morning coffee. And instead of scrolling through your phone or planning your day, you're just there with the coffee. You feel the warmth of the cup. You smell the aroma. You taste each sip. You notice the sensation of the liquid in your mouth. Sounds simple, even boring, right? But try it fully present, fully engaged, just with your coffee. You'll be amazed at how rich that simple experience becomes. And then carry that into your day, meeting with someone. Be fully there, listening completely, responding genuinely, not planning your next words while they're talking, working on a task. Give it your complete focus, not scattered across 10 different concerns, but fully here, fully engaged with what's in front of you. This morning declaration, I will be present today, is a commitment to actually living your life instead of thinking about your life while it passes by. The 10th and final practice is about growth. I welcome challenges today as opportunities to become stronger, wiser, and more capable. This completely reframes difficulty. Instead of seeing challenges as problems, as obstacles, as things that shouldn't be happening, you see them as the very means of your evolution. Everything in nature grows through resistance. Trees become strong by standing against wind. Muscles develop by pushing against weight. Diamonds form under pressure. Why would your character, your capacity, your wisdom be any different? You need challenges. You need difficulties. Not because suffering is good in itself, but because meeting challenges is what develops you. When you establish this every morning, when you declare that you welcome challenges as growth opportunities, something in your psychology shifts. You stop being a victim of circumstances. You start being a student of life. Every difficulty becomes a teacher. Every obstacle becomes a training ground. I knew a young athlete who had this practice embedded deeply. And one day, during a crucial competition, he suffered a severe injury. His knee gave out in the middle of a match. And the natural response would be devastation, anger. Why me? Why now? But because of his morning practice, because he had trained his mind to see challenges as opportunities, his response was different. He told me later, as I was lying there in pain after the initial shock, I heard my morning words in my mind, I welcome challenges as opportunities to grow. And I thought, okay, this is my challenge now. This is the opportunity life is presenting. So what can I learn? How can I grow through this? And that mindset, that orientation, completely changed his experience of recovery. Instead of bitter, angry rehabilitation, he approached it as a chance to develop mental toughness, patience, and compassion for his body. He came back from that injury not just physically healed, but mentally stronger than he'd ever been. And he credited it entirely to his morning practice of welcoming challenges. So these are the practices. Let me bring them all together for you because I want you to have this clearly. I want you to be able to use this starting tomorrow morning, starting right now. First, I am here. I am awake. I am alive. Presence and gratitude. Second, I do not know what this day will bring, but I will meet it in open heart and a clear mind, openness and readiness. Third, I am not my thoughts. I am the awareness that witnesses thoughts. Identity and freedom. Fourth, today, I will act in alignment with who I want to become, not who I have been. Growth and conscious evolution. Fifth, today, I will look for opportunities to serve, to help, to add value, contribution and meaning. Sixth, I accept that I cannot control everything, but I can always control my response. Power and responsibility. Seventh, I release my attachment to specific outcomes and trust the unfolding of my path. Trust and flexibility. Eighth, I release resentment and blame from yesterday. Today is new. Forgiveness and renewal. Ninth, I will not live in the future or the past today. I will be here in this moment as fully as possible. Presence and engagement. 10th, I welcome challenges today as opportunities to become stronger, wiser, and more capable. Growth mindset and resilience. These 10 declarations, spoken every morning with genuine intention, will rewire your brain. They will reshape your reality, not through magic, through consistent practice, through repetition, through choosing again and again to orient yourself toward growth, presence, service, and power. Now, I know some of you are thinking, this sounds great, but I'm not a morning person. I can barely get out of bed. I definitely can't do some elaborate practice. And I want to address this directly because it's important. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to do this for an hour. You don't need to sit in lotus position on a mountaintop. Start with 5 minutes. Set your alarm 5 minutes earlier. Sit on the edge of your bed. Say the words out loud. Or in your mind if you have a partner sleeping next to you. Just say them. That's it. 5 minutes of intentional morning programming. Can you do that? Can you give yourself 5 minutes to establish the foundation for your entire day? And if 5 minutes feels like too much, start with one. Just one practice. Pick the one that resonates most with you right now and do that every morning for a month. Just one. I am here. I am awake. I am alive. That's 15 seconds. Surely you can spare 15 seconds to set your day on the right track. Because here's what I've learned after decades of practice, and teaching perfection is not the point. Consistency is the point. It's better to do one practice genuinely every single day than to do an elaborate ritual that you abandon after a week because it's too complicated. The masters always taught practice before achievement, repetition before mastery. Consistency before perfection. Show up every day, even if it's imperfect, even if you're tired, even if you don't feel like it, especially when you don't feel like it. That's when the practice matters most. I want to tell you about a conversation I had with my own teacher years ago when I was struggling. I told him, "Master, I've been practicing these morning declarations for months now, and I still get angry. I still get anxious. I still make mistakes. When will this actually work?" And he looked at me with such compassion and said, "You're asking the wrong question. The question is not, when will I become perfect? The question is, am I more aware of my anger now than I was before? Can I return to center faster than I used to? And I'm making mistakes more consciously. Progress is not perfection. Progress is awareness." And he was right. When I looked honestly, I realized I was different. Not perfect, but different. I still got angry, but I noticed it sooner. I still got anxious, but I didn't identify with it as completely. I still made mistakes, but I learned from them faster. The morning practice hadn't made me into some enlightened being. It had made me more conscious, more present, more capable of choosing my response. And that's what this is really about. Not becoming some idealized version of yourself where you never struggle, but becoming more conscious in your struggles, more awake in your challenges, more capable of meeting life as it is, rather than as you wish it was. Let me share something personal with you. There are still mornings when I don't want to practice. There are mornings when I'm tired, when I'm stressed, when I just want to grab my phone and distract myself. And on those mornings, I use a simple trick. I ask myself one question: who do I want to be today? Not what do I want to do, or what do I have to accomplish, but who do I want to be? And when I connect with that, when I remember that I want to be someone who is present, conscious, growing, contributing, when I remember that I want to be someone who meets life with awareness rather than just reacting automatically, then the choice becomes clear. Of course, I'll practice, not because it's easy, not because I feel like it, but because it's aligned with who I want to become. This is the secret, really. Motivation is unreliable. You will not always feel motivated. Inspiration is fleeting. You will not always feel inspired. But commitment is steady. When you're committed to something, you do it regardless of how you feel. You do it because you've decided it's important. You do it because it's aligned with who you're becoming. So my challenge to you, my invitation to you, is to make this commitment. Not to be perfect, not to never miss a day, but to commit to the practice of morning intention, to commit to consciously programming your mind before the day programs it for you, to commit to being awake rather than sleepwalking through your life. Start tomorrow morning. Before you check your phone, before you think about your to-do list, before the demands of the day rush in, take 5 minutes. Sit up, take a breath, and speak these words with intention. Mean them. Feel them. Let them resonate in your body, not just your mind. And then watch what happens, not overnight, not magically, but gradually, consistently, undeniably. Watch as your relationship with life begins to shift. Watch as challenges that used to overwhelm you become manageable. Watch as you begin to recognize choice where you used to see only compulsion. Watch as your capacity grows, your awareness deepens, your life transforms. This is not theory. This is not philosophy. This is practical technique, tested through centuries, proven in countless lives, available to you right now. You don't need special equipment. You don't need perfect conditions. You just need commitment and consistency. I'll leave you with one final story. There was an old master at the end of his life, and his students asked him, "Master, you've lived such an extraordinary life. What's your secret? What made you different?" And he smiled and said, "I'm not different. I just practiced being awake. Every morning, I reminded myself of the truth. Every morning, I chose consciousness over habit. I did this for 70 years. That's the only secret. 70 years of morning practice. 70 years of choosing awareness. That's what created a master, not talent, not luck, not special circumstances. just consistent practice one morning at a time, you have the same opportunity. You have the same capacity. You have the same choice available to you tomorrow morning, and the morning after that, and the morning after that. The only question is, will you take it? Transform your life fast, the title says. But let me tell you the real truth. Transformation is not fast. Transformation is daily. It's the compound effect of small choices made consistently over time. It's the accumulation of conscious mornings, creating conscious days, creating a conscious life. But here's what is fast: the decision. The decision to start can happen right now. The commitment to practice can happen right now. And the first benefits, the first signs that something is shifting, those can appear surprisingly quickly. Not because the words are magic, but because when you start your day with intention, when you consciously establish your foundation every morning, everything that follows is different. So make the decision. Make the commitment. Starting tomorrow morning, or even tonight, if you want to practice before bed, begin establishing your foundation. Begin programming your mind consciously. Begin choosing who you will be rather than defaulting to who you have been. Your life is waiting for you to wake up to it. Not someday, not when conditions are perfect. Now, this moment, this breath, this choice. Say this every